There comes a moment in life when strength fails, help us disappear, and words can no longer explain your pain. In that moment, you must understand one truth. You are not helpless. You are covenant-backed. The blood of Jesus is not a symbol. The blood of Jesus is not history. The blood of Jesus is power in motion. The blood speaks. This is not poetry, and it is not religious drama. It is spiritual reality. Long before your voice learn how to pray, before your mouth learn how to cry, before your mind learn how to reason, the blood already had a language. The blood of Jesus is not silent, inactive, or symbolic. It is alive with authority, and when it speaks, realms respond. Every life is governed by voices, some loud, some hidden, some ancient. There are voices of history, voices of failure, voices of mistakes, voices of accusation, and voices raised against destiny. Many people suffer not because they are weak, but because the wrong voice is speaking over their lives uncontested. But there is a voice that outranks every other voice. A voice that does not argue, negotiate, or beg. It speaks with finality. That voice is the blood. The blood speaks mercy where judgment is demanded. It speaks pardon where condemnation insists. It speaks restoration where loss has written a conclusion. When the blood speaks, it does not need evidence. It carries authority within itself. The enemy thrives on accusation, reminding you of where you failed, what you did, and why you should not rise again. But accusation collapses the moment the blood speaks. Because the blood does not deny the past, it overrides it. It does not pretend sin did not happen. It declares that payment has already been made. This is why the blood is fear in the realm of darkness. It ends conversations the enemy wants to prolong. Many people pray asking God to speak, not realizing that God has already spoken through the blood. The question is not whether the blood has a voice. The question is whether you know how to agree with what it is saying. The blood speaks peace to troubled consciences, rest to weary souls, and courage to broken hearts. It speaks identity to those confused about who they are. It speaks word to those who were told they are nothing. It speaks destiny to those buried under delay. The blood never repeats the language of shame. It speaks the language of redemption. When the blood speaks, it speaks across time. It speaks into generations. It answers battles you did not start and cancels deaths you did not create. Some struggles are older than your decisions. They are inherited, sustained by voices that have spoken unchecked for years. But the blood is older than every altar, stronger than every covenant, and superior to every spiritual claim. When it speaks, ancestral voices lose relevance. Patterns lose permission. Cycles lose power. The blood does not shout, it declares, and declaration is stronger than noise. The blood also speaks justice, not human revenge, not emotional retaliation, but divine justice. It speaks on behalf of the oppressed, the cheated, the misunderstood, and the forgotten. It speaks in courts you cannot enter, and before judges you cannot see. While you sleep, the blood is speaking. While you wait, the blood is speaking. While you are confused, the blood is speaking clearly. This is why your confidence must not be in speed or strength, but in alignment. When you align your faith with the voice of the blood, outcomes change even when circumstances resist. The blood speaks life. Where death announces finality, the blood announces continuity. Where doctors conclude, the blood introduces another chapter. Where doors close permanently, the blood opens paths no one planned for. It speaks hope into spaces where hope was pronounced dead. It speaks strength into weakness and light into confusion. It does not ask permission from darkness to speak. It speaks because it has the right. To understand that the blood speaks is to stop fighting every battle with emotion. It is to stop explaining yourself to voices that have no authority. It is to rest in the confidence that something greater than your prayer vocabulary is already advocating for you. When fear speaks, the blood responds. When guilt speaks, the blood answers. When delay speaks, the blood interrupts. And his voice never cracks, never weakens, never expires. So when you stand and declare faith, you are not creating power. You are agreeing with a voice already speaking. The blood has not gone silent. It is speaking now. The only question is this: whose voice will you believe? Spiritual warfare is real, whether acknowledged or ignored. And the greatest disadvantage a person can have in a battle is pretending it does not exist. Life is not neutral territory.
Every destiny is contested, every rising is observed, and every advancement attracts resistance. Many people interpret persistent struggles as bad luck, human opposition, or coincidence, not realizing that there is an invisible dimension influencing visible outcomes. When patterns repeat without logical explanation, when progress is resisted beyond natural limits, and when effort does not match results, it is often a sign that a battle is taking place beyond the physical realm.
Spiritual warfare is not about fear, it is about awareness. Darkness thrives where ignorance reigns. The enemy does not need to overpower a person who does not know they are in a fight. Confusion alone is enough. This is why many well-intentioned people live defeated lives despite the potential. They apply physical solutions to spiritual problems and wonder why the pressure remains. Not every problem is psychological. No every delay is human. Apenas mi abrió postaría. No every opposition que te han cambiado chetaría. Eso can be explained by circumstance. Some battles require spiritual discernment before they yield to strategy. However, the reality of warfare does not mean the believer is alone. The greatest deception is not that battles exist, but that you must fight them by yourself. You were never designed to rely on personal strength, intelligence, or experience as your primary defense. Human strength has limits, but divine backing does not. The moment you understand that help is built into your faith, fear begins to lose its grip. You are not surviving battles. You are positioned to overcome them. In this warfare, authority matters more than effort. Many people fight passionately but without authorization, and passion without authority leads to exhaustion. True victory comes from alignment, not aggression. When heaven stands with you, resistance becomes temporary. When you engage divine help, battles shift from survival to enforcement. You are not trying to win. You are standing on a victory already secured. This understanding changes how you pray, how you speak, and how you respond to pressure. Spiritual warfare explains why some doors close despite preparation and why others open suddenly without explanation. It explains why certain attacks come precisely at the moment of progress, clarity, or breakthrough. Advancement attracts attention, and light provokes resistance. But opposition is not proof of failure. It is often confirmation of value. What is not valuable is rarely fought. What carries purpose is always contested. Yet, even in warfare, peace is possible. Peace does not come from the absence of conflict, but from the presence of assurance. When you know that you are not fighting alone, you stop reacting to every threat. You stop panicking at every delay. You stop interpreting resistance as rejection. Confidence grows When you realize that battles are temporary, but purpose is permanent. The enemy can delay, but he cannot deny what is divinely backed. This is why faith is not passive. Faith is engagement. Knowing when to stand, when to speak, and when to rest. There are moments when silence is wisdom, and moments when declaration is required. Warfare teaches discernment. It teaches dependence. It teaches humility. The humility of knowing that help is necessary and available. Pride tries to fight alone. Wisdom leans on divine strength. The reality of spiritual warfare also reveals the importance of endurance. Some victories are instant, others are gradual. Delay does not mean defeat. Pressure does not mean abandonment. Resistance does not mean disqualification. Battles are not signs that you are outside purpose. They are often proof that you are walking directly into it. What matters is not how intense the fight becomes, but who stands with you in it. When you understand that spiritual warfare is real, but that you are not alone, courage replaces anxiety. You stop shrinking back and start standing firm. You stop asking why the battle exists and start enforcing the victory available to you. You recognize that every fight has an expiry date and every storm has a limit. You are not surrounded by enemies. You are surrounded by help. So you rise not in panic but in confidence. You engage not with fear but with faith. You move forward knowing that even when the battle is fierce, the outcome is secure. Because the greatest advantage in spiritual warfare is not your strength. It is the presence of divine backing that never withdraws, never weakens, and never loses. Covenant power is the unseen framework that governs outcomes beyond effort, skill, or intention. Many people work hard, pray sincerely, and plan carefully, yet still experience resistance that does not match their actions. This is because life is not ruled only by principles, it is governed by covenants. A covenant is a binding agreement that authorizes results. Wherever covenant power exists, outcomes are enforced, not negotiated. The blood establishes a covenant that darkness cannot break, revise, or ignore. It is not an emotional promise. It is a legal reality in the spiritual realm. The strength of a covenant is not in the emotions of those under it, but in the authority of the one who initiated it. Human covenants fail because humans change, weaken, forget, or die. But this covenant stands because it was initiated, sealed, and guaranteed by divine authority. Darkness understands covenants more than humans do. This is why the enemy respects legality. He resists prayer, but he fears covenant. He challenges words, but he retreats from authority. When the blood sealed the covenant, it ended debate. It established terms that cannot be overturned by time, mistakes, or opposition. Covenant power explains why mercy is available, even when justice demands punishment. It explains why access is granted even when qualification is lacking. It explains why help arrives even when strength is gone. The covenant does not deny human failure. It overrides its consequences. This is why condemnation has no legal standing over a covenant person. Accusation may speak loudly, but it lacks authority. The covenant speaks quietly, but it carries finality. Many people live below their covenant benefits because they are covenant unaware. They live as though everything depends on behavior alone, not realizing that covenant provides covering while growth is in progress. This does not excuse irresponsibility. It empowers transformation. Covenant power does not encourage compromise. It guarantees restoration. It ensures that failure is not final and delay is not denial. When you understand covenant, you stop relating with God as a stranger and begin standing as one who belongs. Darkness cannot break a covenant because it did not create it. It cannot cancel what it did not authorize. It can accuse, intimidate, and delay, but it cannot revoke covenant rights. This is why some attacks persist but never succeed. The enemy may knock, but access is denied. He may threaten, but permission is withheld. Covenant power draws boundaries that opposition cannot legally cross. The covenant established by the blood is not fragile. It does not depend on mood, consistency, or perfection. It depends on divine faithfulness. This is why hope survives even after repeated disappointment. This is why people rise again after falling hard. This is why destinies recover after long seasons of confusion. Covenant power keeps doors open that effort alone could not sustain. Covenant power also creates responsibility. When you know you are covered, you stop living carelessly. You begin to honor what backs you. You become mindful of alignment, not out of fear, but out of reverence. You recognize that access is costly, even if it is freely given. The covenant invites confidence, no arrogance, boldness, no recklessness. This covenant is not limited by geography, background, or history. It reaches across generations, restoring what was lost before you were born. It interrupts cycles that education could not fix and breaks patterns that awareness alone could not stop. Covenant power explains why some lives suddenly change direction without external explanation. It is not luck, it is authorization. When darkness meets covenant power, it meets a verdict already written. It meets a decision already enforced. It meets boundaries already established. This is why storms may arise, but they do not consume. This is why pressure may increase, but collapse does not follow. The covenant holds when emotions fail and strength runs out. To live covenant aware is to walk with quiet confidence. You stop rushing to prove yourself and start resting in what backs you. You stop fearing loss and start trusting preservation. You stop begging for access and start exercising it. Because when the blood sealed the covenant, it did not just promise victory, it guaranteed it. Divine intervention is the moment when heaven steps into a situation that has exceeded human capacity. It is the point where effort admits its limits and grace takes over with authority. Many people struggle because they believe asking for divine intervention is a sign of weakness, not realizing that knowing when to stop relying on self is wisdom. Human strength is useful, but it was never designed to carry destiny alone. There are battles where intelligence fails, connections go silent, resources dry up, and time itself seems to work against you. These moments are not accidents, they are invitations for heaven to act. Divine intervention does not arrive because a person is perfect. It arrives because a situation has reached a point where only God can be credited for the outcome. This is why delay often precedes intervention. When solutions are still available, credit can be shared. But when all doors close, when logic runs out, when explanations fail, divine intervention becomes unmistakable. It leaves no room for confusion about the source of victory. When heaven steps in, outcomes change suddenly, not gradually, and the shift cannot be traced to human effort. Many people pray for divine intervention but secretly want control. True intervention requires surrender. It requires the humility to say, this is beyond me. Heaven responds to honesty, no performance. When human strength ends, it creates space for divine authority to operate without resistance. This is not abandonment, it is alignment. God does not compete with human pride. He intervenes where trust replaces self-reliance. Divine intervention also operates on divine timing, not emotional urgency. What feels late to you may be precise in the realm of purpose. Heaven does not rush, but it is never slow. When intervention comes, it arrives complete. It does not patch problems, it restructures outcomes. It does not reduce pressure, it removes its source. This is why sudden clarity often follows long confusion, and sudden breakthroughs follow extended silence. Silence is not inactivity, it is preparation. When heaven steps in, it does not always change circumstances immediately. It often changes authority first. Situations remain the same, but control shifts. Fear loses its grip. Confusion gives way to peace. Strength rises where weakness dominated. Divine intervention often begins internally before it manifests externally. This internal shift is evidence that heaven has taken over the matter. Divine intervention also bypasses systems that resisted you. It opens doors you were never qualified for and closes doors that will have destroyed you later. It rearranges relationships, opportunities, and environments without asking for permission from those who blocked you. This is why divine intervention cannot be manipulated. It cannot be forced by repetition or volume. It responds to alignment, trust, and surrender. Some of the greatest interventions happen quietly. Not every miracle is loud. Not every breakthrough is dramatic. Sometimes divine intervention is the strength to endure when collapse was expected. Sometimes it is preservation when destruction was planned. Sometimes it is direction when confusion was overwhelming. Survival itself can be evidence of intervention when odds were against you. Divine intervention does not remove responsibility, it restores capacity. After heaven steps in, you are empowered to walk forward with clarity and courage. Intervention is not an excuse for passivity, it is an empowerment for progress. When God intervenes, He does not replace your steps, He stabilizes them. He does not remove effort, He multiplies its impact. Understanding divine intervention removes desperation from prayer. You stop panicking and start trusting. You stop chasing outcomes and start aligning with purpose. You realize that no situation is truly hopeless until heaven has been invited and trusted. Human strength has an end, but divine intervention has no limit. When heaven steps in, battles conclude, cycles break, and stories change direction. What was impossible becomes undeniable. What was delayed becomes accelerated. What was lost is restored in ways effort could never achieve. Divine intervention is not a last resort. It is a guaranteed response when human strength ends and trust begins. Victory is not a concept reserved for the future. It is a reality already secure that demands enforcement. Many people assume that because something has been won spiritually, it will automatically manifest physically. But in life, possession and enforcement are not the same. What is legally yours can still be resisted if it is not deliberately claimed. This is why many believers live beneath their inheritance, not because victory is absent, but because it is unenforced. The cross concluded the battle, but faith enforces the outcome. Victory must be applied with understanding, not awaited with passivity. Enforced victory begins with the realization that opposition does not mean defeat. Resistance is not proof that you have lost. It is often proof that something valuable is being defended against you. If there were nothing at stake, there would be no fight. The enemy does not waste energy on empty ground. He resists where destiny, purpose, and progress are involved. Understanding this shifts your mindset from fear to authority. You stop asking why the battle exists and start asserting why it cannot prevail. Many people pray, hoping circumstances will change while remaining mentally defeated. But enforcement begins in the mind before it appears in life. You cannot enforce what you secretly doubt. Faith is not wishful thinking, it is legal confidence. It is standing on what has already been concluded and refusing to accept outcomes that contradict it. When you enforce victory, you are not trying to convince God, you are resisting illegitimate opposition. Enforcement requires consistency. One declaration is powerful, but sustained alignment is transformative. This is where many lose ground. They speak boldly once, then retreat emotionally when pressure continues. But enforcement is not emotional, it is positional. It is standing your ground even when evidence challenges your belief. The enemy understands persistence. He often waits, hoping fatigue will achieve what force could not. Enforced victory refuses to grow tired of standing. Victory is enforced through alignment of words, actions, and expectations. You cannot speak victory and expect defeat. You cannot declare progress while preparing for failure. Enforcement demands coherence. Your language must agree with your belief, and your belief must agree with what has already been secured. This does not deny reality. It confronts it with higher authority. Faith does not ignore facts. It subjects them to truth. There are victories that do not manifest instantly, not because they are denied, but because they are contested. Contest does not cancel conclusion. Delay does not erase decision. Enforcement understands timing without surrendering confidence. It knows when to wait and when to speak, when to move and when to stand still. This balance comes from conviction, not impulse. Enforced victory also requires discernment. Not every battle requires reaction. Some fights are distractions designed to pull you away from what truly matters. Wisdom enforces victory selectively. It knows where to invest energy and where to maintain silence. Authority is not proven by noise, it is proven by outcome. Sometimes enforcement looks like bold declaration, and sometimes it looks like unshakable peace. One of the greatest proofs of enforced victory is rest under pressure. When panic is expected and calm appears instead, authority has been established. When collapse is predicted and stability remains, victory is being enforced quietly. The enemy thrives on emotional chaos. Peace frustrates him because it signals confidence in an outcome he cannot change. Enforced victory transforms posture. You stop approaching life as someone hoping to survive and start moving as someone authorized to advance. You stop shrinking in conversations, opportunities, and decisions. Confidence grows not from arrogance but from assurance. You are not guessing, you are standing. Ultimately, enforced victory is a decision. A decision to agree with what has already been won rather than what is currently visible. A decision to hold ground when retreat feels easier. A decision to trust conclusion over conflict. Victory is not waiting for permission to appear. It is waiting for enforcement to be exercised. When you enforce victory, you are not fighting for an outcome. You are maintaining one. You are not chasing success. You are defending territory already claimed. And when enforcement becomes your posture, resistance loses its leverage. Battles lose their intensity. And outcomes begin to align with what was secured long before the fight began. Victory does not need to be begged for. It needs to be enforced.